Hey everybody. It is Scott Brown here on day 25 of Darren LaCroix's 90-day Facebook Live Challenge. And I have a question for you tonight. Are you living as a noun or are you living as a verb? Do you live as a noun or do you live as a verb? Let me explain. Way back when I first graduated from college, one of my first jobs was at Busy Beaver Building Centers. And it was in Pittsburgh. I didn't know the first thing about building materials. I am not the handiest person in the world, but it's where I ended up landing outside of college. And I remember the day that we realized that the company was in financial trouble, and we realized why. We had an edict that came down from the executive leadership team, and they decided that they needed to have more leaders in the company. They needed to have more leaders. But they didn't have the money to really develop the leaders. So they did what they thought was the next best thing. They gave all of us new name tags. And instead of saying department supervisor on it, it came back and said department leader. That for some reason they thought that by titling us with a brand new name tag, all of a sudden, majestically, we would somehow figure out how to lead something. And the majority of us that were there were young. We were right outside of college, and we didn't know the first thing about the difference between leading and being a leader. We just knew that we had new name tags with new expectations and the same old skill set. So let me ask you, are you a noun? Or are you living by a verb? And here's the difference. Anybody can be a noun. Anybody can get titled to do something. You can be a manager. You can be a leader. You can be a coach. It doesn't matter what it says on your name tag. But not everybody can actually bring that to life. Not everybody can actually manage. Not everybody can lead. And not everybody can coach. And on the flip side of that, just because you've lost doesn't make you a loser. Just because you failed doesn't make you a failure. And I know for years I confused those two things, and I thought that if you failed, you were a failure. If you lost, you were a loser. If you won, you were a winner. And none of those are true. None of those are true whatsoever. What you title yourself as has nothing to do with your actions. Actions are what brings people together. Actions are what helps people take a step forward in their journey. Actions are what makes the world go round. It's not about the title that you have. It's not about what's on your name tag. It's about what you do. So if you find yourself someday in a position where someone says, I'm going to call you a leader, or I'm going to call you a manager, ask them, why? Why do you have to title me as that? Is it something that I do that makes me a leader or a manager or a coach? Or is it just something that makes you more comfortable to give me a name tag that makes it seem like we have people around that do the thing that you want us to do, but we haven't taught them how to do it yet? See, it's not just the small companies that do this either. I spent a couple years, 3.5 years actually, working for Disney, and one of their biggest pieces of nomenclature is they talked about you report to your leader. You report to your leader. But I'll tell you, there were more than one leader that I worked for that I wouldn't have followed anywhere. They didn't lead. They barely managed. They weren't taking us anywhere. There was no direction, there was no vision, there was no quest, there was no bigger picture. It was just a paycheck for them. That's not a leader. That's just another employee higher up on the organizational chart. Just because someone sits at the top of the organizational chart doesn't make them a leader. Just as if somebody sits in the lower part of the organizational chart, it doesn't mean they can't be a leader. So if you feel frustrated and confused sometimes, and you're wondering, are my actions really getting noticed? The people around you know who's leading, who's coaching, who's managing, who's helping, who cares, Who's kind? You don't need a title or a tag to tell you what to do. You just need to go out and do it yourself. Go out and take that initiative. Go out and help people. Because the greatest thing we can do is to give the very best of ourselves to someone else to help them get a little bit better. So the next time that somebody says, hey, I think you're a great leader, ask them why. And if it's just because you're in front, start to think about what you can do to lead, to manage, to coach, to help, to inspire. So that's the greatest gift we have. It's giving our best of ourselves to help somebody else be the best that they can possibly be. So until tomorrow, everyone, lead on, my friends, and I'll see you tomorrow.